India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has taken the oath of office at the first session of the new parliament. Mr. Modi is expected to lay out plans for his third term in office, but will have to work with coalition partners in a new government after his BJP failed to secure an absolute majority for the first time in a decade. The recent general election also saw a resurgence of India's opposition. The new parliament includes many MPs who are facing criminal investigations, as DW Reporter Shalu Yadav reports from Delhi.
Indians chose their new government this summer. The BJP party did worse than expected and was forced into a coalition. But there are also other surprises when it comes to the new parliament. Almost half of the MPs in the current session have criminal cases against them. 31% of those are for serious criminal charges like rape, murder and kidnapping. What's more, since 2009, there has been an increase of 55% in the number of MPs facing criminal charges. The candidates are required to declare any criminal history when filing their nomination for election. But many voters don't seem to care if a candidate has been charged with a crime. In fact, candidates facing criminal charges were almost 4 times more likely to win than those with no charges against them. India's parliament is a representation of the country's secular democracy, with MPs from diverse backgrounds and religions. But for the first time, a governing coalition doesn't include a single Muslim MP, despite Muslims making 14% of India's population as India's largest minority. The 24 Muslim MPs in the parliament come from the opposition parties. Women constitute almost 49% of India's population, but their numbers are not matched in the parliament. Only 14%, that is 74 of the 543 elected MPs, are women, which is significantly below the global average. However, there is hope for improvement. Last year, a law was passed setting aside 33% of seats for women in the lower house of the parliament. One downside is that it will be implemented only after India completes its next census, and a date for that has not yet been set.
Lots of interesting numbers there. Let's take a closer look with Michael Kugelmann. He's the Deputy Director of the Asia Program at the Wilson Center in Washington, D.C. So good to see you, Michael. So we heard there a staggering 55% increase in the number of Indian members of parliament who are facing criminal charges. Why is that number so high?
Yeah, it really is quite remarkable. This is a long-standing problem, too. We've seen for quite a few years these high numbers of parliamentarians with criminal records. And, it's interesting, more than a decade ago, Sonia Gandhi of the Congress Party said that we need to build a consensus to prevent criminals from getting elected to parliament. But instead, the problem got worse. And also her party, the Congress Party, which now leads the opposition, is one of the biggest offenders. I think one of the issues here is corruption, political corruption, the fact that those that have violated the laws, there's no incentive to try to get those out of the political scene, so to speak. And also, if there were to be efforts from within the political system to try to make it more difficult for those with criminal records to get into parliament, that could actually be a problem for the political class, as it could mean that key political allies, key political partners, those needed to pass key laws, would no longer be able to be holding office.
We're talking about rape, murder, and kidnapping here, among other things, of course, but those are very serious allegations. Why does that not put voters off?
Right, absolutely. And it should. And to be fair, I mean, there have been some campaigns within civil society to try to give greater attention to these issues. But it's as we look at the election campaigns over the last few cycles in India, indeed, these are not issues at the top of the campaign, which I think at the end of the day, you could look to that as something that clearly needs to change, to put it mildly.
Mm-hmm. I want to look at the new constellation in the parliament, right? Because the BJP, and especially in the government, the BJP has lost its absolute majority for the first time in a long time, and Modi now has to rely on other parties. We heard it in the report. No Muslim MPs are part of this coalition. Does that mean he can press through his Hindu nationalist agenda?
Well, actually, I think this will be a challenge for the new government, given that the two largest coalition partners that the BJP will be working with are very different parties ideologically from Modi and the BJP. They are much more secular in outlook, and they have sparred with, their leaders have sparred with Modi on some of these Hindu nationalism issues. So I think that there are plenty of issues that Modi will not face any resistance from the opposition partners on. But I do think when it comes to his social agenda, his Hindu nationalist agenda, he could face opposition, even if indeed, as you note, we don't have. When there are no Muslims in the cabinet on the whole right now. But beyond that, those other points, despite all that, I do think that Modi will face some challenges in his third term with his Hindu nationalist policies that he did not face from within during his first two terms.
Yeah, and he's very much aware of that. He has called repeatedly for consensus and for parliamentarians to debate and discuss. I guess I have a double question here. Is that really what he's looking for? And will the opposition and the members of his government grant him that wish?
Well, if you look at Modi's governing style over the years, it is not given to notions of consensus and conciliation and compromise and all of the principles that are at play when it comes to successfully managing a coalition government. So he might be calling for these things, but I think that the important thing to watch is whether he is willing to follow his own advice and his own plea, his own pitch, so to speak. I do think that on many issues, particularly when it comes to economic reform, strengthening the economy on the whole, he's not gonna face much resistance from his coalition partners. And on foreign policy issues, I don't think he'll face much resistance either. The coalition partners really don't have strong visions and views on foreign policy, but I think it really comes back to these more divisive issues, those tied to Hindu nationalism, that might require Modi himself, to be more willing to seek consensus, compromise if he wants to push through some of these more controversial measures that some within his coalition might not agree with.
Interesting times ahead for India. That was Michael Kugelmann of the Wilson Center. Thank you so much.
Thank you.